Hello YouTube, my name's Jason and this is Lionware. Today we are going to go over casting. So let's go ahead and create a public static main like I already have created right here. And then I have it still implementing test, and test has two methods that need to be created, and that's where these two methods came from. So go ahead and create them. And it's pretty easy to do. If you give it a string value, we're not going to use anything special on this. So you can actually use two voided ones and then just have them return null. Or not return anything, because void doesn't return anything. So, and just create them methods inside of your code. The next thing we need to do is we need to go ahead and learn casting. And so we're going to create an integer and we're going to create a double. And we're going to give integer the name of x, and we're going to give double the name of y. And we're going to pass the value for x to 34. Let's do something simple. Let's do 30. And we're going to give y the value of 10 point that 232. And then we're going to create one more double. We're going to call this one z, and we're going to give it the value of x plus y. And this is called implicit casting. And implicit casting means that you do not see it whenever it happens. So that's implicit casting. It's going to turn x into a double only for the creation of z. So whenever we print out z on the screen, and play, it gets the value of 40.232 because it just added that, and it had to change x for the creation of z. Whereas x stays a integer, but it was changed right here only for the creation of z. And then it just goes back to being an integer again. So now we have this right here. Explicit casting. Let's go ahead and create one more double. And we're going to call this one w. And we're going to give it the value of z plus x. And we're going to be doing explicit casting on this one. And what explicit casting is you can see it as it happens. And the best way to remember explicit casting is for external. Like a house is external. You can see a house when it happens. And you can remember implicit casting as the eye, invisible. And basically you can't see something that's invisible because it happened, but it was invisible, so you can't see it. And this was external, so you could see it. So what we're going to do is we're going to change z into an integer before we cast it. And the way you do that is you put these two parentheses out here, and then you put the data type that you want to change it to. And we're going to be changing z into an integer before we cast it into w. And if you remember, z is indeed a double because this is the value of z. Now if we go to w, it should come out without that n, but since it was still created as a double, it still puts this 0.0 at the end of it. Whereas on z was changed into an integer, and that's why it didn't get this value right here at the end of it. And this is not a permanent change. If I put z right here, you can still see that z has the 0.232, but it was specifically changed into an integer to change w, to give to w, and that's why it got that little 70 but with no end on it. So let's go ahead and print that on the screen, and we get 70.0 because it's still a double for the w. But that is what is called explicit casting, is whenever you can see the cast happen. And implicit casting is when you can't see the cast happen. You can also cast objects like dog, and you can also cast classes and interfaces, and that's what we're going to do next. So let's go ahead and we're going to create a new interface. Just come down here to the bottom and we're going to create an interface, and we're going to call it other interface, and we're going to give it only one item. We're going to call this button. So let's go ahead and create button. And of course, since it's a interface, we cannot give it, we can't define it. All we can do is create it. So now we have this interface. The next thing we're going to do is we are going to create an object. And every time you create an object, you implicitly cast it. So let's go ahead and create a dog. And let's call this object 1. And we're going to give this the value of dog, of course. And this is implicit casting because we're just creating all of it. And you can see we didn't have to change dog or anything. So that's how you implicitly cast an object. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to create a button. Did I call that button? No, I called that other interface, didn't I? Other interface. And we're going to call this object 2, and we're going to give this the value of dog, not dog but object, because we want it to be like object 1. And if you notice, we get an error, but that's because dog is not an interface of other interface, and you can't create an other interface with a dog class. So what we have to do is we have to explicitly change object into a interface of other interface. So what we're going to do is just create other. Is that all? Yeah, okay. Other interface. And now the error goes away. So now object 1, for the purpose of creating object 2, became a other interface. And if we try to use object 2, you'll notice that it gains the button method, but it doesn't gain any of the methods from the other interface, which was implemented from dog. So let's go ahead and just call that button, put it right there. So that's how you would basically explicitly cast an object and how to implicitly cast an object. That is all I'm going to go over in this tutorial. Thank you for watching. My name's Jason. This was Lineware. Please comment, rate, and subscribe, and have a great day.